We've got Samantha Brody here. She's the Senior Sales and Service Model Manager for Peapod, and she's going to walk us through the things that can make for successful partnership between brands in this increasingly major retail presence. Please welcome Samantha Brody.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you, Jeff, for the introduction. My name is Samantha Brody. I am the Senior Sales Manager at Peapod, and I am responsible for the New York, New Jersey area, which basically means I have to manage and grow that business. And this is actually my first time at BevNet, so Jeff, excited to be here. And I'm really excited because I get to talk about a topic that's obviously really the bread and butter of what Peapod does, but I think even more importantly to the folks in the audience, I think it's critical to the future of the beverage industry. And I will caveat throughout the course of the conversation, I know that Jeff has, talks a lot about e-grocery and omni-channel and e-commerce, and I want you all to know that when we talk about grocery, beverage is a critical part of that. So over almost 80% of the orders that Peapod does feature a beverage item, and we do offer that full grocery solution. So, I won't belabor the point. I was going to come up here and try and do a little bit of a hard sell on omnichannel and the opportunity that it provides. And Jeff kind of already hit that home earlier this morning, which I think was really helpful. But what I will add are a few, I think, really critical points for you guys to consider about why you should enter the e-commerce space if you're not already there. As Jeff mentioned, it's a really growing industry. Online is really moving across all feeds. You can see from this graph to my right, this just represents the % of customers who are buying items in each category, whether it be fashion, IT, furniture. Most importantly, obviously, is grocery. And that's the new frontier, we believe, for e-commerce. It's expected to grow by $100 billion when we hit 2025, and I think important to beverage is when you think about the move from brick and mortar to online, the first thing that customers start to buy online is the shelf-stable stuff, the stuff they don't want to carry, it's heavy, it's beverage, right? And so there's a real opportunity when you talk about that 3 to 5 times growth that you'd see in a brick and mortar store. I think the other point that I'll hit on is really, it came up earlier this morning, which is incrementality, right? What is the opportunity with e-commerce? Does it actually add and grow incremental sales? And I would argue, if you think about all of the innovation that we're seeing across industries, unexpected ones, right? Glasses, furniture, movies, books, music, things that we took for granted as being online are now totally commonplace. And I think the reason that is because there are customers that really want omnichannel, and more, they rely completely on e-commerce. So, going back to that point about incrementality, if you aren't in the online space, then there's a whole swath of customers who aren't going to see your brand at all, right? Because more and more there are customers that aren't even doing any shopping in the store. So, for the rest of the presentation, what I really want to focus on, obviously, is the opportunity with Peapod and with our brand partners, and how e-commerce is really a different channel for the customer, and it has to be treated as such. And so a lot of the best partners that we have recognize that and really approach their work with us differently than they might approach working with a brick and mortar. And the opportunity there is really around ultimately the customer, right? We are a customer-centric business. Hopefully you guys are customer-focused brands. And the customer wants online because it really provides an opportunity to improve their grocery shopping experience. There's so many things about the brick and mortar grocery shopping experience that are driven by operations and manufacturers and not by what the customer wants. And understanding that and understanding how, online provides a better opportunity to improve that customer journey is something we at Peapod are really focused on and we work with our brands on. So, fortunately, we have a lot of history in this space. Peapod is, I would say really the originals in terms of e-commerce. We're almost 30 years old. We were founded in 1989. And that was out in Evanston, Illinois. So we actually started in the suburbs. And it was two founders, Andrew and Thomas Parkinson, who started Peapod before the internet had even taken off. They were actually delivering modems to customers so they could sign up for the internet and place their orders. Yeah, and they were, grabbing groceries out of the back of their truck. But that has given us a lot of time to learn, to develop our operations, to develop our efficiencies, and to really harness all the data that we have from a customer perspective to offer more value. So we have continued to grow. We are now owned by Ahold. We were purchased by them in 2001. So Ahold is an international grocer, both online and brick and mortar. They're based out in the Netherlands, and they have a host of different brands out there. In the United States, we have 20 local brands, so Peapod, actually more than 20. Peapod's just one of those brands. Some of the other brands you might be familiar with, Stop & Shop, Giant Landover, Giant Carlisle. We actually recently merged with Delhaize, which is another international grocer, and they've brought additional brands to the table as well, so we are able to really offer the full omni-channel solution to our customers. And as we've been able to leverage a lot of efficiencies, both from an internal and a customer perspective, working with our stores, we've also looked to our technology, because obviously the online business is really driven by technology, and that's where there's so much opportunity. And so in 2015, we launched a mobile app, very standard table stakes now, to ensure that customers can easily order their groceries, whether they're waiting in line to pick up their dry cleaning or sitting at home in their bed. Over 50% of our orders are touched by mobile, so we really think a lot about mobile and how the mobile experience supports our customer. And now in 2017, we are in over 20 markets. We are all up and down on the northern part of the East Coast, so the New England and Northeast area, which I manage, as well as out in the Midwest, where we were founded, Chicago, Illinois, Milwaukee. We've delivered over 40 million orders, so we have a lot of history. And we are delivering both to consumers as well as to businesses. A lot of companies, more and more, they can offer as a perk to their employees, and it's sometimes expected by millennials to have snacks on site. And so Peapod does that as well. And we've really managed to, I think this came up earlier, both find that sweet spot, delivering to both suburban and urban customers. And we have a really strong business in both of these areas. So as I mentioned earlier, I think the other big thing I want to talk about this afternoon is really what has Peapod been doing, and what opportunity is there with brands to capitalize on e-commerce, and how ultimately does it help the customer and differ from the brick and mortar experience. So I'll talk a little bit first about the traditional brick and mortar experience. And for us, as I mentioned, we're a full grocery shop. Our customers are planners. Our average basket size is 150, so we are thinking about the customer who's planning that weekly stock up. And there's kind of three components to their experience. First, they're planning for the meals for the week, figuring out what they need. They're then kind of translating that into a list of whether it's ingredients or other kinds of snack, beverage, stock-up items. And then finally, they're going into the store and lugging all of those groceries and beverages home. And we see at Peapod so much opportunity to innovate in this space and along these three customer journey points with our brands to offer something that has more value. And so, the first thing you think about is the meal solutions and meal planning process. And the way that a traditional brick and mortar store is set up is not conducive to that at the end of the day, really. When a customer is planning for the week, they're not thinking, I need to stock up on my dairy or my shelf-stable items. I mean, they're not thinking about the aisles and the categories that we've created. They're thinking about, I have my kid's soccer game, and I need to get snacks and drinks for all the kids, and I need bulk beverage, or I have an event coming up. I'm not interested in just blueberries. I'm interested in mojitos so that I can serve something at my cocktail party. And so, when we work with our partners, we really think about how can we offer more meal solutions? How can we fit into that process and make this experience more seamless for the customer? So there's a few ways we do that. One of the first things we do is actually offer meal kits and cocktail kits. So beverage is an important part of that. We see, so similar to a Blue Apron or a Plated, you can get a meal kit without the subscription. You can pick your recipe, and often it's at even a savings from a customer perspective. Out in Chicago, we actually have where we have alcohol cocktail kits, so you can get everything you need for a Bloody Mary or whatever it may be. I think we're not gonna, transition fully to focus only on meal kits. That's one part of the solution, but I think there's other ways in which we work with brands to say, how can we offer meal solutions? So I see a lot of computers open. We actually have a website, we call it a microsite, called FromThePod.com. So you can check that out on your computer, hopefully after the presentation. But I would definitely encourage you to check out FromThePod.com. That is where we host content specific to meals. So working with partners, we source recipes and information about meal planning, and then we allow the customer with one click to add everything from a recipe right into their Peapod cart. So it makes that meal planning process so much more seamless and easy. The other thing we do, if you're on our website, you'll see something we call virtual bundles. Again, a way where we virtually pull together different meal solutions and beverages that help serve the customer and what they're looking for. So after the customer has figured out what they're doing for their meal solutions over the course of the week, they obviously also are always going to start with a list. Again, the traditional list, piece of paper, it's the oldest tool in the book, pretty archaic, pretty blunt, if you think about it, what it can do for you, and the challenges it poses, right? If you lose a list and you forget what you had on it, you may not know, you may not realize that you're always ordering chocolate milk or you always want to buy chocolate milk for your kids. They love it, but it's been missed on your list. It's off the table, and that's a lost sale for our partners as well. But what we find is that technology and e-commerce allows you to offer a better list and make that list process both improve for the customer and then ultimately for the brand and for that loyalty opportunity. So, one of the most important things we always tell our brand partners is you want to be on that list. The number one way that customers build their online list is based on their history. So we have a functionality where you go in and with one click, it adds everything that you've ordered in your last shopping experience right to your cart. And if you're a brand, then that guarantees you're always going to be remembered as part of that list. We have a host of other features, something we call Order Genius. Again, it's an algorithm that pulls your past history and purchasing behavior to understand and provide you with options for building your list. The other piece that really plays in for lists for Peapod is you can combine your brick and mortar list with your online list because we have data relevant to all the customers who are shopping in our stores at a Stop and Shop or a Giant. Their loyalty card allows us to help them translate that if they want to place an order on Peapod as well. And then I think the last experience for a customer who's completing their grocery stop, personally the one that I find most painful, is carrying all your bags and lugging them back home and having to deal with the challenge of finding a parking spot or managing your kids or whatever it may be, that you'd rather save the time and get your groceries delivery. So that's a no-brainer, and for beverage especially, when you have all of those heavy items, it's a real benefit to the customer. The other thing that I would say about online versus brick and mortar and what you should be thinking about when the customer is shopping is, a traditional brick and mortar store might have 40,000 items. A customer at Peapod might put 50 to 100 in their cart. So that means less than 0.1% of what they're actually buying is available to them. It's absolutely overwhelming. And if you think about having to make the choice and figuring out what brands you're going to buy and what items you want to add to your cart, you often lose sales because customers don't even want to deal. They'll skip it out completely because it's just too much. But online, ultimately, one place that Peapod hopes to get is to help you create your own personal store. Build that one-to-one relationship with the customer, and we have all this customer data to do that. And so, we think about that aisle in the store, and then we think about instead a curated personal store for the customer online. So we work a lot with our brand partners, and we think about search as a perfect example. Partners can invest in search and find ways to make sure that when a customer searches, they're finding their brands. Another example we use is our filter system. So when you're going through that search process, a customer may know, I only purchase organic items. Why should I see all the items that are not organic? They're never going to be in my consideration set, but there might be an organic brand I'd never heard of that actually I would consider. And so having that opportunity to filter by organic or by brand, price, whatever it may be, we have over 20 filters, is a real opportunity for the customer. So just to recap, I talked a little bit about what Peapod's doing in terms of innovating and working with partners to make that customer experience better. We're focused really on meal solutions, on helping customers build their lists, and then completing a shop that makes sense for them, that's curated and personalized. And the last thing that I'll just say from a brand perspective is, for those guys who are small and may not have that opportunity to get the scale of distribution across a huge brick and mortar brand with Peapod and with online, this is an easy, quick way to learn and test and try us at a local market. Try any e-commerce opportunity. Throw something on the web, see how customers respond. You have access to immediate data. And we're really excited to continue innovating, to continue growing our business with our brands. So thank you very much. It's time for questions.
Thank you very much.
Hey.
Care to join us on the couch?
This looks comfortable.
It matches the jacket. It's fantastic. You said over 50% of your orders now supported by mobile.
Yeah.
Would we call that the tipping point for e-commerce, for grocery e-commerce, in terms of broadening out the customer pickup?
Yeah, I think mobile is definitely an important thing. I think there's always going to be a place for also tablet and desktop because customers, it can take time to build out lists. For us, we're really just thinking about when we're developing our content and what the customer is experiencing, does it make sense across all of the different platforms? Does it fit into the different things that they're doing to complete the shop?
One question that I'd follow up with is, for the suppliers out there, how should they be thinking about mobile as part of as if we hadn't thrown enough e-commerce at you today, now we're going to throw mobile in there. But how should they be thinking about that as a component of their e-commerce strategy?
That's a great question. I think they should always be thinking about what is the experience for the customer when they're shopping mobile, and I would encourage and challenge brands as they're working with us or with other retailers to say, is my product going to show up properly when it comes out on mobile? Is the nutritional information going to be easy to read? Are all of the components that I want our customer to experience, does it make sense from a mobile perspective as well as a desktop perspective? And we want to partner with brands to help them do that, but they should definitely continue to push the envelope there as well.
So I want to ask you the same question that I asked our friends from Fresh Direct, which is, who is your consumer and what do they want in beverage?
Great question. So I think an important thing to know, our consumer is a planner, so we don't do same-day delivery. It's, again, the customer who's doing their weekly shop. And I think they want beverage, because it is the weekly shop, beverage is really a critical part of it. As I mentioned, almost 80% of orders have beverage. And what, hopefully my presentation illuminated is we'll always be thinking about how can we better integrate that into their meal solutions and their cart and their full grocery order.
That's almost promotional, though. Are they more pantry loading with these kinds of deliveries, or is it a trial situation?
So, are you talking about pantry versus perishable versus non-perishable?
Yeah.
We're about 50-50. Yeah, customers are doing all of their fresh with us as well.
Okay, so cold channel is an important part.
Absolutely.
Now, what kind of marketing do you want them to do to support their brands?
I think it depends. It totally depends on, what your goal is. If you're launching a new product versus, trying to build loyalty or build frequency, I think, we're trying to, we've developed a partner program where we really work specifically with you to think through strategically what you want to do to market and get your product out there.
All right. Hey, thank you so much for taking us through that
and
for joining us today.
Thank you very much.